We begin tonight near Marano, where dozens of high school students were taken to the hospital after their bus flipped over from a crash on the I-10. Good evening and thanks so much for joining us. For 12 News at 10, I'm Kariba Devine.
And I'm Troy Hayden. Mark's off tonight. The bus was headed towards Tucson when that crash happened, causing both parts of I-10, both directions, to close down for hours.
12 News journalist Chase Golightly is joining us live from the crash now. And Chase, what is it looking like now?
Kariba, Troy, the I-10 remains closed 8 hours after this crash happened. You can see why. That school bus filled with dozens of students and chaperones still flipped on its side right in the middle of the eastbound and westbound lanes. It appears law enforcement is trying to flip it upright and then tow it away. We saw the other vehicle involved in this crash was taken away within the past hour. Now, while several students were taken to the hospital, we were told none of them are facing life-threatening injuries. We were also told that while DPS is still investigating this crash, they have made an arrest.
It's a pretty traumatic scene.
A school bus filled with 35 high schoolers from Kingman, all injured from a crash on the I-10 near Marana.
Everybody's bumped and bruised and stuff from this crash.
Captain Tim Wiedemann with DPS says 4 people on the bus, made up of 3 teenagers and an adult, were rushed to the hospital with serious injuries. Everyone else was taken as a precaution.
Get them to the hospital, make sure they don't have injuries that they don't know about. With adrenaline buildup, later is when you feel it.
It happened just before 2 p.m. Tuesday. The packed bus was heading toward Tucson for a Future Business Leaders of America event when DPS says it got into a collision with this gray SUV.
Causing the school bus to lose control. The investigation is still ongoing. The school bus ended up coming across all lanes of traffic and striking the barrier cable.
The impact flipped the bus on its side. The driver of that SUV wasn't injured, but Wiedemann says they were taken into custody.
Charges are not going to be disclosed at this time. That will be at a later date while our Vehicular Crimes Unit detectives are out here investigating.
Both eastbound and westbound lanes at Tangerine Road were shut down, creating bumper-to-bumper traffic that backed up for miles as DPS continued its investigation. Now you can see this is the traffic. This is those heading eastbound into Tucson. A long line of cars and semi-trucks still backed up for miles again in both directions. We were told by DPS that this will still be going on for the next couple hours until they're able to tow that bus away and clear off all the debris from the road. We also did hear from the Kingman Unified School District that said some students should be able to get out of the hospital tonight depending on their injuries. Of course, still a very active situation. We'll be sure to keep you updated as we learn more, especially the charges that driver involved in this crash is facing. For now, we're live near Marana. Chase Golightly, 12 News.
Chase, thank you. Just into the newsroom tonight, actor Val Kilmer has died. The New York Times confirmed that he died today in Los Angeles from pneumonia. Kilmer rose to fame in the 1980s, had an acting career spanning 4 decades, and that career reaching new heights when he appeared as Tom Cruise's rival in the original Top Gun. He also had roles as Jim Morrison in The Doors and the big role of Batman in 1995's Batman Forever. Val Kilmer, 65 years old.
Back here in the Valley, there is an active police investigation right now at Cesar Chavez Park in Phoenix. That is near 35th Avenue and Baseline. Police tell us that they responded to the park at 8 p.m. for a report of a shooting and found a man who had been shot. He was taken to the hospital with life-threatening injuries. Detectives haven't released any information about what led up to the shooting or if they're still looking for a suspect. So stay with 12 News for more updates. New at 10, police have arrested a man who allegedly vandalized a Tesla in a Gilbert parking lot. The person who owns that Tesla tells 12 News that his car was parked at the Santan Valley Shopping Mall back on March 13th when someone damaged it. Police used video footage from the Tesla and from the surrounding area to identify the suspect, who has now been identified as 62-year-old David Moeller of Chandler. Moeller was arrested and is facing criminal damage charges.
Yeah, almost all Teslas these days have those exterior cameras running. Tonight, the Casa Grande community comes together to celebrate the life of an elderly woman who was killed in a crash with a city transport van. Ava Berger died yesterday after a city van hit her outside of her home right as it was dropping her off. Tonight, loved ones hosted a vigil where the community could celebrate her life. Neighbors say she lived in that area for more than 30 years and treated everybody like family.
I always heard compassion for others, how she donated, always told us to donate our clothes, how she always tried to keep the kindness going, right? More like a pay it forward thing. Do right by others and maybe you'll get it in return as well.
DPS is still investigating exactly how this fatal crash happened.
A jury has been seated and sworn in for Lori Vallow Daybell's murder conspiracy trial. The Doomsday Mom was already sentenced to multiple life sentences in Idaho for murdering her 2 children and now faces additional prison time here in Arizona. As we near closer to opening arguments, 12 News journalist Bianca Bono sat down with a private investigator who was hired to look into this web of crimes and killings connected to Vallow Daybell. She is joining us now live in studio. And Bianca, what did he have to say?
Well, Rich Robertson was hired by Brandon Boudreaux all the way back in 2019. Boudreaux was married to Lori Vallow Daybell's niece and had just been shot at. Robertson, though, would quickly learn that the case he was taking on was much bigger than that.
We didn't know where the next attack might come from.
For 25 years, Rich Robertson has worked as a private investigator in Arizona, but he'll be hard-pressed to ever work a case like this one again.
People were dying while I was investigating.
In 2019, Robertson was contacted by Brandon Boudreaux, the now ex-husband of Lori Vallow Daybell's niece. Boudreaux had just been shot at, and from the beginning, he thought Lori Vallow Daybell had something to do with it. Her 2 children, JJ and Tylee, had recently disappeared.
He felt that they were all related. He hired me to try to find where everybody went, because they all fled to Idaho.
And months before Boudreaux's attempted murder, Lori Vallow Daybell's ex-husband, Charles Vallow, was shot and killed in Chandler.
I got in a fight with my brother-in-law and I shot him in self-defense.
This 911 call was made by Alex Cox, Lori Vallow Daybell's brother, admitting to shooting Charles Vallow, claiming it was self-defense. At the time, Richardson recalls it wasn't a high-profile case for police.
So they didn't really dig into it. I don't think it was until after all these other deaths that they went back into it to put together the conspiracy.
As more deaths continued to happen, prosecutors say that conspiracy became clear. Now, more than 5 years later, Lori Vallow Daybell has been convicted of murdering her 2 children, conspiring to murder the first wife of her current husband, Chad Daybell, and is serving multiple life sentences. She's now back in Arizona representing herself in court, charged with conspiracy to commit murder in the death of Charles Vallow. The jury officially seated and sworn in on Tuesday.
Her representing herself is not going to help her at all. This trial is going to be a circus.
During Robertson's time investigating this bizarre and tragic case, most of his questions have been answered. But today, days away from the start of yet another trial, the biggest that remains is why.
I'm not sure we've ever really gotten to the why, or it's certainly not a why that any of us can quite understand. We're all trying to come up with rational explanations for these irrational acts. I don't think we'll ever get there.
And opening statements in Vallow Daybell's trial are set to begin on Monday. Once this trial wraps up, she's set to go to trial again in Arizona for conspiring to kill Brandon Boudreaux. We're live in studio, Bianca Bono, 12 News.
All right, Bianca, thank you. And just a reminder, we will be live streaming the entire trial exclusively on the 12 Plus app for your TV. So if you want to download this app, you can do that right now on your TV and you can watch it for free. We'll also have a daily recap and analysis of what happens inside the courtroom. Again, that is exclusively on the streaming app 12 Plus, and you can get it on Roku, Apple, and also Fire TV.
It has been proven that firefighters are exposed to toxins and carcinogens on the job, and many get sick because of it. And now there's a push to look into whether firefighters' children are also getting sick from these same toxins. At the Professional Firefighters Conference last summer, they increased firefighter dues because they used that money to study the issue. Now, there are no official stats yet, but the Phoenix Fire Union says they have enough sick kids at Phoenix Children's Hospital to warrant some big questions.
We have several kids at the hospital right now, like PCH and undergoing treatment and things like that. And we may not know for years to come whether we can connect those to the job, but we have been successful at connecting the cancers that firefighters under presumptive law passages through the state legislature and throughout the country as well, in linking those disease states to the conditions of the job.
So this is all part of a push by fire departments to raise awareness about this issue across the country with the goal of getting resources to try to fix that problem.